I have what we think is the strongest election integrity measures in the country. I'm actually going to sign it right here. It's going to take effect. So
there you go.
Bill is signed. And here's what it does. We're making sure we're enforcing voter ID. Look, you have to show a picture ID to do all these other things in society, clearly voting. We're also banning ballot harvesting. We're not going to let political operatives go and get satchels of votes and dump them in some drop box. We're also prohibiting mass mailing of balloting. We've had absentee voting in Florida for a long time. You request a ballot, you get it, and then you can mail it in. But to just indiscriminately send them out is not a recipe for success. We're increasing transparency even better. In Florida, we track the votes coming in real time, not the results, but we know who's voting, what your registration is, and we follow the turnout. So then when the election's over, we know the universe of votes that have been cast, and it makes it so that someone can't dump 100,000 votes 2 or 3 days later. And then finally, we're prohibiting private money from basically running the elections, like these Zuckerbucks that they were doing in all these different parts of the country.
All right, guys, so as you can see there, that is Ron DeSantis, who is picking up W's, right? Like I say, he's eating W's like Jameis Winston, just eating them up, okay? Ron DeSantis signed a new voting ID law, right, in Florida, and guess who's mad? Guess who's mad? Guess who's upset? Guess who is salty, right? The Democrats, of course, are salty because, you know, they want to run every state's election. That's why they, you know, have that Voting Rights Act that is going to basically federalize all these elections, because they want to tell other states how to run their thing, right? And when states decide what they want to do, they got to get mad and throw a fit and say, oh my God, it's suppressing black people. It's suppressing minorities. It's suppressing the elderly. It's suppressing all these people from voting, blah, blah, blah. Same thing you always hear. Same thing you hear with the Georgia voter ID laws, okay? It's going to be the same story every single time. Anytime the Republicans do anything in regards to voting or the elections, they're going to whine, cry, and complain, even though they want to literally federalize it. So obviously, you know, they're not satisfied with the way it is. That's why they want to take it over, right? It's just so funny how this works. Biden's spokesperson, the White House has slammed Florida's voting bill, saying that it is moving in the wrong direction. And guys, before I get in this, I just want to make it abundantly clear. Disclaimer, I am not making any claims whatsoever. No claims about any election or anything like that whatsoever. This is purely informational content and educational about the voter laws that are being passed in Florida and around the country and the response to them. That's it. Okay, let's read a little bit more here. The White House condemned Florida's new voting legislation as a step in the wrong direction just after Governor Ron DeSantis signed the bill into law Thursday. Florida is one of a number of GOP-leading states, most notably Georgia, to enact voting changes in the light of the 2020 election. Quote, the 2020 election was one of the most secure elections in American history. There's no legitimate reason to change the rules right now to make it harder to vote. That's built on a lie, Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters aboard Air Force One. Quote, the only reason to change the rules right now is if you don't like who voted, and that should be out of bounds, she said. Quote, there's some states with bad laws trying to make them good, and some states with good laws trying to make them even better. That's moving forward. Florida is moving in the wrong direction, the press secretary continued. She reiterated support for H.R. 1, the House passed sweeping voting rights bill, saying it is needed to make sure elections are secure and convenient. So let's get this straight, guys. They want the federal government to take over what states are supposed to do, right? Because they want to make the election secure and convenient, right? That's what they want to do. The Democrats want to do it by federalizing. But when states do it, right, which they have the right to do, oh, no. That's wrong, right? That's wrong. They can't do it. If they do it, it's voter suppression, right? If we do it, we're making it secure and convenient. You see how this goes, guys? You see how the Democrats try to weaponize language, right? They try to weaponize language to try to push their bills and what they want to do but to discount everything else that the Republicans want to do. That's just kind of how it goes. So let's actually read, a little bit more detail about what's in this bill. One of the most criticized elements of the law concerns the restrictions on when ballot drop boxes can be used, who can collect ballots, and how many. To protect against so-called ballot harvesting, an electoral good Samaritan can only collect and return the ballots of immediate family and no more than 2 from unrelated people. Under the new rules, drop boxes must be supervised and would only be available when election offices and early voting sites are open. The law also prohibits what the governor calls unsolicited mass mailing of ballots. Ballots will only be sent to the individuals that request them, and only if requested for each election cycle they intend to vote by mail. Also, each political party and candidate will have access to observe signature matching reviews by the canvassing board and allows for appointed watchers on their behalf. The law now requires that a voter making changes to registration data provide an identifying number, possibly a driver's license number or a partial social security number. Every county will have access to live voter turnout data that will be updated hourly by supervisors of elections. SOEs will also be required to post beginning at 7 p.m. on election day the number of vote by mail ballots that have been received and the number of vote by mail ballots that remain uncounted. This reporting will be updated at least every hour. Passage of the law extends a no influence zone to 150 feet around polling places. Election officials would have to let candidates and others observers witness some key election night moments in the ballot handling process. Any violations would prompt hefty fines. The law prohibits private money from administrating elections by prohibiting election supervisors from attempting donations or grants to fund any aspect of election administration or operations. That sounds like a reference to the Mark Zuckerberg law, right? That DeSantis was talking about. The proposal signed into law did not include some of the more severe provisions initially put forward by some Republicans, including the outright banning of drop boxes and preventing the use of the U.S. Postal Service for returning completed ballots. All right, guys. So tell me how any of that stuff that I just read prohibits anybody from voting whatsoever. If anything, it sounds like they're trying to be more transparent, right? Right? That's what it sounds like to me. Transparency is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay? It's not a bad thing. Right? And there's nothing that he's outlined there that's preventing anybody from doing anything. Again, this idea that, minorities can't vote because they have to provide a social security number or an ID really is just offensive. It really is. It really is just offensive. Okay? If you want to drop off a ballot, all you have to do is just, drop it off on the way to work, right? During the times that you need it. Drop it off during lunch. If you really want to vote, you can vote. It's not a big deal, right? But these Democrats want to make such a big deal out of these laws that are really not hindering anybody from voting if they really want to vote, period, right? At least I don't see it. That's just my opinion. Okay, I'm open to arguments, but I just haven't heard a good argument so far. I just haven't heard anything. Matter of fact, I've heard some pretty silly arguments about this specific bill from Ron DeSantis, as the Democrats are saying, well, he's trying to keep old people from voting. He's trying to keep the elderly from voting. And I'm like, why in the hell would Ron DeSantis want to keep old elderly people from voting in Florida, the retiree state? There's a lot of old Republicans, right, that are in Florida. Why would he want to keep them from voting? Again, this stuff makes no sense logically. So, kudos to the DeSantis here. Some people say he's trying to search for a solution to a non-problem, but at the end of the day, man, if he's doing stuff that's helping a lot of people in the base have confidence in our elections, which GOP probably needs, right, if they want to, win moving forward, then it is what it is. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.